I sat across from them in their pristine living room as my husband packed his things upstairs, my mother-in-law's voice cutting through the silence. "We never liked you anyway." 8 years of cooking their Sunday dinners, attending every family function, suddenly erased with 5 casual words. I sat across from them in their pristine living room as my husband packed his things upstairs, my mother-in-law's voice cutting through the silence. "We never liked you anyway." 8 years of cooking their Sunday dinners, attending every family function, suddenly erased with 5 casual words. Patricia Barnes adjusts the crystal bowl of potpourri on the coffee table, her movements precise, controlled. A woman who has spent her life ensuring everything appears perfect on the surface. Beside her, my father-in-law Robert nods in somber agreement, his eyes not quite meeting mine. "James was always meant for someone more suitable," Patricia continues, her voice carrying the same tone she uses to discuss unsuitable dinner wines. "Someone who understands our family's position in the community." I don't flinch. Don't cry. Don't scream about the irony of their family position being largely maintained by my income these past 8 years. Instead, I fold my hands in my lap and breathe. 3 days ago, life had been normal. I was Rebecca Barnes, marketing executive, wife of James, supporter of his perpetually about to take off architectural practice. I was the daughter-in-law who coordinated holiday gatherings, remembered birthdays, and smiled through Patricia's backhanded compliments about my humble background. Then came Tuesday afternoon. I had been organizing James's home office, a task he perpetually avoided. Behind a stack of old design magazines, I found a hotel receipt. The Westlake Grand, dated 2 weeks prior, when James had allegedly been at a conference in Chicago. A second receipt showed room service for 2, champagne and strawberries, the cliché of affairs. I continued searching, now with purpose rather than helpfulness. A second phone appeared in the back of his desk drawer. Text messages to Alyssa left nothing to interpretation. Photos confirmed what the messages suggested. This wasn't a one-time indiscretion, but a 6-month relationship. That evening, I placed the evidence on the kitchen counter. When James arrived home, I watched his face transition from confusion to shock to the careful composition of a man preparing to lie. "This isn't what it looks like," he began, using perhaps the most telling phrase a guilty partner can offer. "It looks like you've been sleeping with Alyssa Winters for 6 months," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "It looks like you charged hotel rooms to our joint credit card. It looks like you've been lying about business trips and late client meetings." James's defense shifted from denial to minimization to blame with remarkable speed. The affair wasn't serious. I had been emotionally distant. My career took too much of my attention. I wasn't spontaneous enough, adventurous enough, understanding enough of the pressures he faced. "And your solution was to sleep with your parents' neighbor's daughter?" I asked, the final piece clicking into place. "Alyssa Winters, daughter of Patricia's Garden Club president. 26 to my 34. From the right kind of family, as Patricia would say." James had the decency to look away. "It just happened." "Affairs don't just happen, James. They're choices. Repeated choices." Later that night, James announced he was going to stay with his parents for a few days to give us space. I didn't argue. I needed time to think, to plan, to assess what this meant for the life we'd built. I didn't expect him to call the next day, asking me to come to his parents' house for dinner, to discuss our situation as a family. I should have refused. But 8 years of marriage, of trying to be accepted by the Barnes family, of bending to maintain peace, these habits don't break in a day. I arrived to find not just James and his parents, but also James's sister Elizabeth and her husband. A family tribunal, not a discussion. Dinner was a masterpiece of passive aggression. Patricia served my least favorite meal, seafood risotto she knew I disliked, while speaking about marriage requiring compromise and understanding men's needs. Elizabeth reminisced about James's college girlfriend who had been such a natural fit for the family, When I finally asked directly what the purpose of this dinner was, James cleared his throat. Rebecca, I've done a lot of thinking. I've realized I've never been truly fulfilled in our marriage. My parents have helped me see that we married too young, before I really knew what I wanted. We married when he was 28 and I was 26. Hardly children. What James needs, Patricia interjected, is a fresh start. We think a clean break would be best for everyone. A clean break, I repeated. And what exactly does that look like? Robert spoke for the first time. James will obviously stay here until things are settled. We've already spoken to Wilson, their family lawyer. Given the circumstances, we think a quick, quiet divorce with a fair division of assets makes sense. The circumstances being James's affair? I clarified. The room fell silent until Patricia sniffed dismissively. No marriage is perfect, Rebecca. If you had been more attentive to James's needs, perhaps he wouldn't have had to look elsewhere. That's when I stood, gathering my purse with steady hands. I'll be consulting my own attorney, thank you. Don't make this difficult, Patricia warned. It's best for everyone if this ends amicably. Amicably, I repeated. Like conspiring behind my back as a family? Like blaming me for James's infidelity? We're just being realistic, Patricia said, her voice sharpening. You never truly fit with our family. We tried to make it work for James's sake, but honestly, we never liked you anyway. The words hang in the air as James's footsteps creak on the stairs, returning with his suitcase presumably filled with more of his belongings from our home. Our home that, I suddenly recall with perfect clarity, is solely in my name because James's credit was too poor to be on the mortgaged. I rise from the pristine white sofa, smooth my skirt, and look directly at Patricia. Thank you for your honesty, I say, my voice calm. After 8 years, it's refreshing to finally hear the truth. I walk to the door, passing James in the entryway. He has the decency to look ashamed, though whether for his actions or his mother's words, I can't tell. I'll have the locks changed by morning, I inform him quietly. Please make sure you take everything you need tonight. As I close the door behind me, I hear Patricia's voice rising in indignation, James's placating response. But I'm already walking to my car, back straight, eyes dry. They think they've won. They think I'll crumble. They have no idea what's coming. Morning light filters through the bedroom windows. Windows I now realize I've always kept dressed in the heavy drapes James preferred rather than the light curtains I wanted. The first of many small accommodations I've made over 8 years, bits of myself gradually tucked away to make room for his preferences, his family's expectations, their collective vision of who I should be. I allow myself exactly 30 minutes to cry. 30 minutes to feel the sting of betrayal, the humiliation of being discarded, the shock of having my in-laws' thinly veiled disdain finally spoken aloud. 30 minutes, timed by the bedside clock, to be devastated. When the alarm chimes, I wipe my face, drink a glass of water, and open my laptop. Emotion has its place, but clarity requires strategy. First, finances. I pull up our joint accounts, investment portfolios, credit card statements. As the marketing director for a national retail chain, my salary has always significantly outpaced James's inconsistent income from his struggling architectural practice. Our mortgage, our vacations, our lifestyle, all primarily funded by me, with James contributing what he could when projects came through. The numbers tell a story more revealing than I expected. Regular transfers from our joint account to James's personal account, amounts I had assumed went to his business expenses. Large withdrawals before gifts appeared for his parents, presents that had allegedly come from both of us. Credit card charges at jewelry stores that never resulted in jewelry for me. Had he been planning this? Stockpiling funds? Or simply taking advantage of my trust and busy schedule that prevented me from monitoring our accounts with scrutiny? I moved to property records next. The house is indeed solely in my name, purchased 6 years ago when James was still rebuilding his credit after a business venture collapsed. His name appears nowhere on the deed or mortgage, a temporary situation we had planned to remedy that somehow never happened despite my occasional reminders. The revelation brings a coldness to my assessment. Our home, with its custom kitchen James insisted on, the sunroom addition Patricia had deemed essential for proper entertaining, is legally and fully mine. The mortgage payments have come exclusively from my account for 6 years. I pull out the file with our other critical documents. The deed to our vacation cabin in the mountains, another property in my name alone, though his parents use it more frequently than we do. The title to James's car, purchased with a loan in my name because his credit score again proved insufficient, a loan I've been paying monthly. For 8 years, I've carried us financially while operating under the illusion of partnership, of shared burdens and benefits. My phone buzzes. James. I silence it without reading the message. Instead, I open a new spreadsheet and begin cataloging the financial reality of our marriage with clinical precision. Column after column of evidence showing that I haven't been a partner but a patron, funding not just our life but his parents' comfort as well. The home renovations for Patricia and Robert's 30th anniversary, $30,000 from my bonus, meant to be a loan but never repaid. The bailout when James's first architecture firm dissolved, leaving him with business debts, $45,000 from my savings. The down payment for Elizabeth's condo after her divorce, $20,000 that James had promised his parents we would temporarily provide, money continually flowing from me to the Barnes family, who apparently never even liked me. By afternoon, I've moved from financial archaeology to professional inventory. My contact list contains at least 6 of James's current clients, people I introduced him to through my own professional network. My uncle's development company has provided James with 3 of his 5 current projects. I haven't just been supporting our lifestyle, I've been supporting his career. My phone buzzes again. Patricia this time. I decline the call and continue my assessment. While their words from last night still sting, "We never liked you anyway," I'm beginning to understand the fuller picture. They never liked me, yet they had no problem taking what I offered. Money, connections, convenient support, holiday hosting, ego-stroking tolerance of Patricia's subtle criticisms, as evening approaches. I finally allow myself to examine the patterns. The Barnes family operates on appearance and position rather than substance. Patricia's constant comparisons of me to James's previous girlfriends from good families. Robert's dismissive questions about my career achievements. The way family decisions were always made without consulting me, as if my role was to implement rather than contribute. 8 years of subtle undermining, of never quite belonging despite my efforts. 8 years of James allowing it, sometimes defending me weakly, but ultimately always aligning with his parents' perspectives. My phone buzzes a 3rd time. A text from Elizabeth. James is distraught. "Can't you talk to him like adults instead of changing the locks?" I don't respond. Instead, I pour a glass of wine and walk through my house, seeing it clearly for perhaps the first time. The oversized dining table Patricia insisted was necessary for family gatherings that consumed half our living space. The dark, masculine office James wanted that I work from whenever I'm home. The muted color palette chosen to please his parents' conservative tastes rather than reflect my preferences. Even our home has been a compromise heavily weighted toward the Barnes family's expectations. I make my first decision. The guest room will become my office tomorrow, decorated exactly as I want it. The dining table will be replaced with something that suits my needs, not Patricia's hypothetical dinner parties. Small steps, perhaps petty, but symbolically important. This space will become mine in truth, not just in legal documentation. As I prepare for bed, I create a to-do list for tomorrow. Contact attorney, document all loans made to Barnes family, change online banking passwords, remove James's access to credit cards, call my network contacts currently working with James. Each item feels not like revenge, but like reclamation of my finances. My professional integrity, my self-determination, the betrayal of James's affair pales in comparison to the revelation of how completely I've subjugated my own interests to satisfy a family that never wanted me anyway. The affair was merely the catalyst forcing me to see what has been happening all along. As I drift toward sleep, one thought crystallizes with perfect clarity. They believe I'm broken, possibly begging James to reconsider. They expect tears, drama, emotional outbursts that will reinforce their narrative of me as unsuitable, unrefined. They have drastically underestimated who they're dealing with tomorrow. Rebecca Barnes begins operating with the same precision and strategic focus that has advanced her career, but this time, directed toward disentangling herself from a family that took everything while giving nothing in return. Let them discover exactly what they've lost by discarding me. 4 days after Patricia Barnes's casual dismissal of our 8-year relationship, I sit across from Miranda Laughlin, the city's most reputable divorce attorney. Her office projects exactly the image she cultivates: powerful but not ostentatious, expensive but tasteful. Like me, she believes presentation matters. Based on what you've shared, Miranda says, reviewing the documents I've meticulously organized, you're in a remarkably strong position. Explain exactly what that means, I reply. I don't want platitudes. I want specifics. Miranda appreciates directness. The house and cabin are exclusively in your name. The business loans you provided to James and his family were properly documented. Your income has constituted approximately 82% of your household earnings throughout the marriage. She pauses, turning a page in my file. Most importantly, you have evidence of his infidelity, which still matters in the state despite no-fault divorce options. I nod, absorbing the legal validation of what my own assessment already revealed. There's something else, I say, sliding another folder across her desk. I found these yesterday. Inside are copies of promissory notes, properly executed, notarized documents from 3 years ago when James's parents had needed emergency funds for home repairs. $50,000 from our savings with a repayment schedule they never honored. A single payment made for appearance's sake, then nothing. Did your husband authorize this loan? Miranda asks. We both did. I drafted the documents, insisted on the formality. Patricia called me needlessly bureaucratic for requiring something so formal between family. I allow myself a small, grim smile. Apparently, I was being prudent, not paranoid. Miranda adds these to my file. This strengthens your position considerably. After reviewing my options, I leave Miranda's office with a clear plan and timeline. No immediate filings. Strategic patience will serve me better than reactive haste. My next stop is Meridian Bank, where I open new accounts in my name only, transferring half the funds from our joint accounts, legally appropriate, possibly generous given the circumstances. I leave the joint credit card intact but remove myself as guarantor on James's private card, the one that has been supporting his time with illicit. On my way home, I detour to visit my Uncle Richard, who heads the development company currently contracting 3 projects with James's firm. This is strictly professional, I tell him after explaining the situation. I'm not asking you to cancel anything. I just need you to understand that my relationship with James no longer provides any security for your business arrangements. Uncle Richard's expression is sympathetic but businesslike. He's been increasingly unreliable on the Westview project. Missed 2 planning meetings last month. When he claimed to be at conferences, I note, those were apparently spent with his girlfriend. I'll have contracts reviewed by legal, Richard says. Not to punish him, but to protect our interests if his personal situation affects his performance. By evening, I've made 7 similar calls to contacts whose relationships with James originated through me. Not asking anyone to withdraw support, merely clarifying that I am no longer connected to his professional activities. The response is uniformly supportive of me, concerning for their business relationships with him. As darkness falls, I sit in my newly rearranged living room, sofa moved to capture the view I always wanted. James's oversized leather recliner already donated to a local charity. My phone shows 12 missed calls. James, Patricia, Robert, Elizabeth, even James's uncle who serves on the country club board. The only message I've responded to is James's text about collecting more of his belongings. Professional movers only, supervised access, Tuesday between 2-4 p.m. His response had been immediate and revealing. My mother wants to come help. She doesn't trust you not to damage my things. The movers can film the entire process if she's concerned, I replied. But she is not welcome in my home. The swift shift from his initial apologetic text to this adversarial stance confirms what I suspected. James isn't operating independently, but being guided by his family's approach. A knock at the door interrupts my thoughts. Through the security camera, I see Elizabeth standing on my porch, arms crossed, expression determined. I don't answer, but my phone buzzes with her text. I know you're home, Rebecca. We need to talk like adults. I respond with calm precision. I'm consulting with legal representation and financial advisors. Any communication should go through proper channels once those are established. This is ridiculous. She replies immediately. We're family. The word strikes me as darkly humorous now. Family. The same people who never liked me, who conspired behind my back, who blamed me for James's infidelity, now invoke family connection when it serves their purposes, instead of responding. I mute conversations from all Barnes family members and turn to my laptop, where I've begun documenting a timeline of our marriage. Not for legal purposes, Miranda already has what she needs, but for my own clarity. January 3 years ago, James forgot our anniversary while remembering to send his mother lavish flowers for her birthday the same week. May 5 years ago, Patricia rearranged the dinner seating at our anniversary party to place James between his ex-girlfriend and his sister, leaving me beside Uncle Richard to discuss business opportunities. Last Thanksgiving, James insisted we host his entire extended family, then disappeared to watch football while I served and cleaned up for 19 people, including Alyssa and her parents, the affair apparently already in progress under my own roof. Pattern after pattern emerges, moments where James consistently prioritized his family's comfort and approval over our partnership. Where I consistently accommodated, smoothed over tensions, adjusted expectations in the name of harmony. Never again. My doorbell rings once more, longer, more insistent. The security camera shows Patricia herself now, face flushed with indignation. I watch as she peers through windows, then makes a phone call, gesturing emphatically. 15 minutes later, James's car pulls into my driveway. They conference on my porch, looking toward the windows as if trying to detect movement inside. Patricia appears to be giving instructions, James nodding periodically. My phone buzzes with his message, "You're being childish. Open the door so we can discuss this reasonably." I don't respond, but I do document the unexpected visit with date and time, including security footage. Everything now becomes evidence, potentially useful later. After 30 minutes of doorbell ringing and window tapping, they finally leave. As their car pulls away, I notice Patricia glancing back at the house, my house, with an expression of proprietary annoyance, as if my residence in my own home is somehow an affront to her authority. Perhaps it is. Perhaps that's been the problem all along. I return to my timeline, adding today's unexpected visit. Then I open a new document, titling it Leverage Inventory. In methodical fashion, I catalog every point of influence I hold: house ownership, cabin ownership, car loan guarantor, outstanding family loans with legal documentation, professional connections, currently engaging James's firm, evidence of affair, including financial records of hotel stays and gifts, proof of financial contributions to Barnes family over 8 years, detailed documentation of my contributions to household expenses. The list continues, each item representing not just financial value but negotiating power. Not for extracting revenge, but for ensuring fair treatment. As I review my position, I realize I'm not just reclaiming assets, but reclaiming agency. For 8 years, I've operated as if the Barnes family held the power in our relationship, as if their approval was the currency I needed to earn. In reality, I've held the economic and social capital all along. They never liked me anyway. Fine. They never respected me either. That's about to change. 1 week after Patricia Barnes' casual dismissal of our 8-year relationship, my dining room table has transformed from a site of performative family gatherings to a strategic command center. Documents spread in precise categories: financial records, property deeds, loan agreements, business connections. The physical manifestation of my invisible contributions to a family that never liked me anyway. The property appraisal results are impressive, says Diane Winters, the real estate assessor who just finished a comprehensive valuation of my assets. The main residence has appreciated 32% since purchase, largely due to the renovations and the market upturn. Renovations I primarily funded, decisions James frequently deferred to his mother's taste rather than mine. And the mountain cabin? I ask, maintaining the same businesslike tone I've employed throughout our meeting. Even better. That area has seen a 40% increase. Limited inventory in that location makes it particularly valuable. I've detailed comparative properties in the report. I thank Diane, adding her comprehensive assessment to my growing file of professional evaluations. Yesterday it was the art and furnishings appraisal. Tomorrow, an assessment of my contributions to James's business development. Each document serves as a piece in the larger strategic picture I'm assembling. Not for court necessarily, Miranda believes we'll likely settle without litigation, but for clarity, for irrefutable evidence of my position. My phone buzzes with a text from Claire, my oldest friend who's been checking in daily since the implosion. How's Operation Reclamation going? I smile slightly at the name she's given my methodical response to the Barnes family's betrayal. Systematically, I reply. Meeting with the accountant this afternoon. After Diane leaves, I continue organizing documentation, creating a chronological record of my financial support for James's business over the past 8 years. Loans during slow periods. Connections that became clients. Networking events I brought him to, introducing him to industry figures who later provided opportunities. My phone buzzes again. James, for the 3rd time today. I haven't blocked his number. That would sacrifice information, but I've restricted my responses to practical matters only. Rebecca, this is ridiculous. My parents want to speak with you. We all do. This silent treatment is childish. The same word Patricia used to describe my boundary setting. The Barnes family lexicon appears limited when facing behavior they can't control. I don't respond. Instead, I continue cataloging evidence of our intertwined professional lives, noting each time James leveraged my relationships for his advantage. At 3 o'clock, William Chen arrives. As our accountant for 6 years, he has comprehensive insight into our financial activities, making him an invaluable resource in understanding the complete financial picture. Based on my analysis, William says, reviewing the spreadsheets I've prepared, your contributions to household expenses exceed James's by approximately 76% over the marriage duration. Your salary has been the primary income source since his firm restructured 4 years ago. And the family loans? I ask. William flips to another page. I've documented all funds transferred to Barnes family members. The home repair loan to your in-laws. The business bailout for James's first firm. The multiple smaller transfers for family emergencies. He looks up. Few of these have seen repayment according to agreed terms, if at all. I knew this, of course, but hearing it clinically detailed by a professional validates my position beyond emotional interpretation. After William leaves, I turn to my most complicated task: assessing my professional network and identifying connections that need recalibration in light of my changing relationship with James. Carefully, I draft emails to key contacts whose relationships span both our professional lives. Not severing James's connections vindicatively, but clarifying my position and ensuring my professional reputation remains distinct from whatever challenges he might face as our separation becomes known. The doorbell rings at 7:15. Through the security camera, I see Elizabeth again, this time with Robert. I don't answer, but document the visit, noting it's the third unannounced appearance by Barnes family members this week despite my clear communication about appropriate channels. My phone begins ringing immediately. Elizabeth, then Robert, then Patricia in quick succession. Then James. This is harassment, I text James. I've requested communication through appropriate channels during this transition. Please respect that boundary. They're worried about you. He replies immediately. You're not acting like yourself. A fascinating assessment from people who apparently never liked who I was to begin with. I return to my work, finalizing my strategic position with the same methodical attention that built my career. By evening's end, I have comprehensive property valuations complete, financial contribution documentation, detailed accounting of all Barnes family loans, professional assessment of business relationship values, chronological evidence of James's affair, documentation of in-laws' pattern of interference. Tomorrow, I meet with Miranda to finalize our approach before making the first definitive move. The Barnes family still believes I'm operating from emotional reaction, that I'll eventually capitulate to their pressure for a clean break that primarily benefits James. They don't realize I'm meticulously constructing a position from which they cannot dismiss me, cannot minimize my contributions, cannot simply discard 8 years of my life with, "We never liked you anyway." As I prepare for bed, a final text from James appears. Rebecca, please. Mom and Dad are willing to discuss the loan repayment if that's what this is about. Can we please just talk? So they've begun to realize the financial implications. It's just the beginning. I set my phone aside without responding and review my timeline for tomorrow. The pieces are in place. My position is secure. Now it's time to demonstrate to the Barnes family exactly who they've been underestimating all these years. The certified letter arrives at the Barnes residence at 10:17 a.m. on Tuesday, according to the delivery confirmation. From my office at work, I track its progress dispassionately, imagining Patricia's reaction as she signs for the unexpected formal correspondence. The letter, drafted by Miranda and finalized by me, is the opening move in what chess players would call a middle game strategy. Clear, direct, legally sound, and utterly unassailable. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Barnes, this letter serves as formal notice requesting repayment of the outstanding loan in the amount of $50,000 provided to you on March 15, 2020, for home repairs and renovations. As per the attached promissory note bearing your signatures, this loan was to be repaid in monthly installments beginning June 2020. To date, only one payment of $1,000 has been received. Given current circumstances, I am exercising my right to call this loan due in full. Please remit payment to the account specified in the attached instructions within 30 days of receipt of this notice. Sincerely, Rebecca Barnes. No emotional language. No accusations. Simply a creditor requesting what is contractually owed. AT 1043. My phone begins ringing. Patricia, then Robert, then James in succession. I let each call go to voicemail, focusing instead on my presentation for tomorrow's client meeting. At 11:17, a text from James arrives. What is this letter? Are you seriously demanding money from my parents right now? I consider whether this warrants response, then type simply, the letter is self-explanatory. It's a formal request for repayment of a documented loan. 3 dots appear, disappear, reappear. Finally, this is petty, Rebecca. They're familyed. I don't respond to this. Family, a designation that apparently didn't prevent them from stating they never liked me, from supporting his affair, from attempting to orchestrate a clean break that would leave me with far less than my fair share. AT noon. I execute the next phase of my strategy. I contact my bank and officially separate our finances, transferring my portion of our joint investment accounts into newly established individual accounts. I leave James's earnings untouched. I want precision, not punishment. I then call our credit card companies, removing my name as guarantor from James's personal cards and establishing clear separation of financial liability moving forward. Again, not vindictive, merely prudent given the circumstances. BY 2:30. My phone shows 7 missed calls from various Barnes family members. I forward the voicemails to Miranda without listening to them, then proceed with the next step in my carefully orchestrated plan. I call Thomas Whitman, James's largest client outside my personal network connections. Rebecca, he greets me warmly. I was just thinking about you. How are things? That's actually why I'm calling, Thomas. I wanted to let you know personally that James and I are separating. A pause. I'm sorry to hear that. Is there anything I can do? I appreciate that. The reason I'm calling is purely professional. As you know, I've been handling some of the design coordination and client communication for James's projects, including yours. Yes, you've been excellent. Always more responsive than James, to be honest. I continue smoothly. I'll no longer be involved with James's business operations. I wanted to inform you directly rather than having you discover it through project delays or communication gaps. I hear Thomas's sharp intake of breath. That could be problematic. James has been increasingly difficult to reach. I'd assumed you were keeping things on track behind the scenes. I'm sorry for any inconvenience this causes you. I valued our professional relationship. As have I. Another pause. Rebecca, speaking candidly, should I be concerned about my project timeline? I choose my words carefully. I believe it would be prudent to review your contract terms and current project status. James is talented, but organizational systems have primarily been my contribution. By day's end, I've made similar calls to 3 other clients where I've had significant involvement. Not sabotaging James's business, merely removing my invisible support and clarifying professional boundaries. AT 5:30, I leave work and drive home, to my house, legally and fully mine. In the driveway sits Patricia's silver Mercedes. I park behind it, blocking it in, and approach with measured steps. Patricia stands from the porch chair as I near. Rebecca, she begins, her voice carrying that familiar tone of assumed authority. This has gone far enough. We need to discuss this loan business and your refusal to communicate with the family. I stop at the bottom of the porch steps, maintaining physical distance. I have nothing to discuss outside proper channels. My attorney will be handling all communications moving forward. Please leave my property. Patricia's face flushes. Don't take that tone with me. I've been more of a mother to you than your own. The audacity is almost impressive. A mother who never liked me anyway? I ask, my voice perfectly steady. That was said in the heat of the moment. You're being unnecessarily difficult. I'm being remarkably reasonable given the circumstances. Now, I'll ask once more, please leave my property, or I'll contact the authorities regarding trespassing. Her eyes widen. You wouldn't dare. I assure you I would. Your car is currently blocking my garage access, which constitutes illegal obstruction. For perhaps the first time in our relationship, Patricia seems genuinely speechless. She studies me as if seeing someone new, someone she doesn't recognize. James was right, she finally says. You've changed. No, Patricia. I've simply stopped pretending. I step aside, gesturing toward her car. You should check your mail. You've received important correspondence today requiring your attention. As Patricia drives away, I enter my home, secure the doors, and check my security system. Within minutes, my phone buzzes with a text from James. My mother is upset. What did you say to her? I ignore it, focusing instead on reviewing the documents I'll be providing to Miranda tomorrow, evidence of all the professional and personal boundaries I've clearly established today. BY evening. The pattern of calls has intensified, now including family, friends, and even James's elderly aunt. The Barnes family is mobilizing their social resources, attempting to exert pressure through multiple channels. I document each call, each visit attempt, building evidence of harassment that may prove useful later. As I prepare for bed, I allow myself a moment to acknowledge the strange sense of clarity that has replaced the initial sting of betrayal. For 8 years, I operated as if acceptance from the Barnes family was something I needed to earn. Now I understand it was never available to me, and more importantly, it was never actually valuable. Tomorrow brings the next phase. Establishing clear boundaries regarding the house and initiating formal separation proceedings with terms that reflect my contributions rather than the clean break they envisioned. The Barnes family believed they were dismissing an accommodating daughter-in-law who would fold under pressure. Instead, they're facing the woman I've always been beneath the compromises. 2 weeks after the Barnes family revealed their true sentiments about our 8-year relationship, I stand before my closet selecting attire for an event I wasn't expected to attend. James's cousin Michael's wedding anniversary party tonight, a celebration the family assumed I would naturally avoid given the circumstances, but avoidance has never been my strategy. Strategic presence, however, serves my purpose perfectly. I select a sleek midnight blue dress, professional enough to communicate composure, elegant enough to belong in the country club setting, distinctive enough to ensure I'm not overlooked. I pair it with the diamond earrings I purchased myself after my last promotion, not the pearls Patricia once gifted me that better suited my position. As I drive to the Lakeview Country Club, I review the likely attendance. James and his parents, certainly. Elizabeth and her husband. Cousins, aunts, uncles, family, friends, the entire social circle that has treated me as James's accessory rather than an individual for 8 years. The first test of my composure comes immediately. The valet recognizes me, his expression shifting from professional welcome to uncertainty as he realizes I've arrived alone. "Good evening, Mrs. Barnes," he says, clearly struggling with how to navigate this unusual situation. "Good evening, Anthony," I reply with a warm smile, handing him my keys with a generous tip. Beautiful night, isn't it? Inside the club's grand foyer, conversations momentarily lull as heads turn toward me. I move forward with unhurried confidence, nodding acknowledgments to familiar faces. The whispers begin instantly. The family grapevine has clearly communicated the separation, but my appearance has caught everyone off guard. Cousin Michael spots me first, breaks from his conversation group, and approaches with a mixture of confusion and concern. "Rebecca, I wasn't sure you'd come." "I wouldn't miss celebrating your anniversary," I reply smoothly. 15 years is quite an achievement. His wife Jennifer joins us, her smile more genuine than most I'll encounter tonight. She's always stood slightly apart from the Barnes family politics. "I'm so glad you're here," she says, squeezing my hand. There's no reason events like this should become awkward, regardless of what's happening. I thank her for her graciousness, accepting a champagne flute from a passing server. As I sip, I scan the room, noting James has not yet arrived. Patricia and Robert, however, stand near the bar, their postures stiffening as they spot me in conversation with the guests of honor. For the next 30 minutes, I navigate the room with deliberate ease, engaging in brief, pleasant conversations, neither avoiding discussions of my situation nor dwelling on it. When directly asked, I simply state, James and I are working through some transitions. I'm focusing on moving forward positively. The response creates a narrative I control, calm, dignified, forward-looking, in direct contradiction to whatever story the Barnes family has been circulating. At 8:15, James arrives with his parents. He stops abruptly upon seeing me, his expression cycling rapidly through shock, anger, and, finally, careful neutrality. Patricia's reaction is less controlled. Her face tightens, her posture becomes even more rigid as she clutches Robert's arm. I continue my conversation with James's Aunt Helen. Maintaining the same composed demeanor as the Barnes trio makes their calculated approach. "Rebecca," James says, his tone suggesting we're actors in a play with an audience. "I didn't expect you tonight." "Hello, James." I reply with perfect equanimity. Michael and Jennifer invited me months ago. It seemed important to honor their celebration. Patricia interjects, her voice pitched to carry just slightly beyond our immediate circle. Family events are becoming rather complicated, aren't they? Perhaps a private conversation about appropriate arrangements would have been considerate. I turn to her with a pleasant smile. There's nothing complicated about celebrating Michael and Jennifer's anniversary, Patricia. I'm simply here as their guest. After sending legal demands to family members, Robert mutters, several nearby conversations quiet, attention shifting discreetly toward our exchange. I believe you're referring to the formal request for loan repayment, I reply, my voice carrying the same professional tone I use in executive presentations. That's a separate financial matter, not a social one. James steps closer, lowering his voice. Can we not do this here? I'm not doing anything, James. I'm attending a celebration I was invited to. Patricia's voice sharpens. After everything this family has done for you, perhaps we should itemize exactly what this family has done for me, I interrupt smoothly, and what I have done for this family. I'm happy to discuss the financial particulars if you prefer. The threat of public accounting silences Patricia momentarily. James touches her arm in warning, clearly recognizing my willingness to proceed where they would prefer discretion. Rebecca, he says, attempting a conciliatory tone, no one wants to create a scene. Then we're in agreement. Shall we focus on celebrating Michael and Jennifer? Before anyone can respond, Jennifer herself approaches, either sensing tension or deliberately intervening. Rebecca, I wanted to introduce you to my colleagues from the foundation. They're impressed by your work with the children's literacy program. I accept the graceful extraction, leaving the Barnes family standing in uncertain tableau. As I join Jennifer's friends, I note Elizabeth watching from across the room, her expression calculating. She begins moving toward her parents, undoubtedly to strategize their next approach. Throughout dinner, I can feel the Barnes family's attention, even while seated at a different table. I engage genuinely with my table mates, laugh appropriately at toasts, and participate in the celebration with authentic warmth. The contrast between my composure and the Barnes family's visible discomfort becomes increasingly apparent to everyone present. The defining moment comes during the open dancing, when James's Uncle George, slightly loosened by champagne, approaches me directly. Rebecca, forgive my bluntness, but the family is concerned about the house situation. Patricia mentioned you've been unreasonable about James's access. Several nearby conversations pause, attention shifting our way. That's interesting terminology, George, I reply calmly. Unreasonable about access to a home that is legally solely in my name, purchased with my down payment, maintained with my income, containing furnishings I primarily selected and paid for. George blinks, clearly not expecting such direct factual response. Well, but it was the marital home. Yes, and marriages involve contributions from both parties. I have documentation of exactly who contributed what throughout our 8 years together. Would you like to review those specifics here? I open my clutch, removing a small thumb drive I've brought for precisely this possibility. I carry the financial records with me now, given how frequently the Barnes family seems to misunderstand the actual dynamics of our relationship. George steps back slightly. That won't be necessary. I'm sure it's all very complicated. Actually, it's remarkably straightforward when you have proper documentation. By evening's end, the power dynamics have visibly shifted. The Barnes family, accustomed to controlling narratives through social pressure and selective accounts, finds themselves unable to maintain their preferred version of events in the face of my calm, factual presence. As I retrieve my wrap from the coat check, James approaches alone, his expression conflicted. This isn't who you are, Rebecca, he says quietly. All this cold calculation, these threats about documentation. I look at him directly, seeing clearly the man who betrayed 8 years of partnership, who allowed his family to declare they never liked me anyway, who expected me to simply fade away on their terms. You never knew who I am, James, I reply, my voice steady. And that might be the greatest tragedy of our marriage. As I walk toward the exit, I feel dozens of eyes following my departure. The Barnes family believed my absence would allow them to control the narrative of our separation. Instead, my presence has introduced an inconvenient reality, one where I am neither victim nor villain, but a woman reclaiming her rightful place and due. The valet brings my car promptly. As I drive away, I glimpse Patricia and Robert in animated conversation with Elizabeth near the entrance. Their expressions tell me everything. The family gathering they expected to reinforce their version of events has instead become the public beginning of its unraveling. The truth has a way of emerging, especially when presented with calm, unassailable dignity. Miranda's office is bathed in afternoon light as she slides the final agreement across her desk. They've accepted all terms, she says, a note of professional admiration in her voice. Frankly, I'm surprised they capitulated so completely. I scan the document where James has signed away any claim to the house, the cabin, his access to my professional connections, where he's acknowledged the outstanding debts, both his and his parents', where he's agreed to a settlement that primarily recognizes my contributions rather than demanding equal division of assets that were never equally built. The evidence was irrefutable, I note, signing my name where indicated. And the social pressure unexpected. After the anniversary party, the dynamics shifted dramatically. Family friends began approaching me privately, expressing concerns about patterns they'd witnessed over years. James's Aunt Helen called to apologize for never speaking up about Patricia's behavior. His cousin Michael directly confronted Patricia about the loan repayment during a family dinner I wasn't present for but heard about through Jennifer. The carefully constructed Barnes family image began unraveling once I stopped participating in its maintenance. Patricia was particularly motivated after the foreclosure notice, Miranda notes, that had been necessary after 3 formal notices requesting loan repayment went unanswered. The legal action against their home, a last resort, not my preference, cut through their denial like nothing else had. They've transferred the first payment. I confirm. Miranda nods. Full payment for their loan. Your financial advisor confirmed receipt this morning. I feel no triumph, just calm resolution. This was never about punishment, but appropriate consequences and boundaries. What about James's business? Miranda asks, organizing the signed documents. 3 clients have terminated their contracts. 2 others are completing current projects but won't renew. I say this without pleasure. His firm will survive, but significantly reduced. The consequences emerged organically once I stopped providing invisible support. The business connections I'd facilitated recognized the actual value I had contributed. The organizational systems I'd implemented quietly for years revealed their importance through their absence. Outside Miranda's office, I check my phone to find a text from James, papers signed. I hope you're satisfied. I don't respond. This isn't about satisfaction, but resolution. I drive to what was once our home, now definitively mine alone. The transformation is nearly complete. Walls repainted in colors I chose, furniture arranged to complement how I live, garden replanted with varieties I prefer. Every change a reclamation, not just of physical space, but of self-determination. That evening, Elizabeth calls unexpectedly, my first direct contact with a Barnes family member in weeks outside legal channels. Rebecca, she begins, her voice lacking its usual confidence. I'm calling because I owe you an apology. I wait, giving her space to continue. I didn't want to understand what was happening. How my parents treated you. How James took advantage. She pauses. I thought family loyalty meant supporting their version of everything. And now I see how we all participated in something unfair, unkind. Another pause. They never gave you a real chance. I appreciate her acknowledgement, but maintain appropriate distance. Thank you for saying that, Elizabeth. Is there a possibility of some kind of relationship moving forward? I consider this carefully. I don't know. That would depend on real changes, not just realizations. After we hang up, I walk through my home, my space, my sanctuary, feeling the weight of 8 years lifting gradually. The divorce will be finalized next week. The financial entanglements are nearly resolved. The social reverberations have stabilized into a new reality where the Barnes family's influence has diminished while my independent standing has solidified. Patricia's words still occasionally echo, "We never liked you anyway." Words intended to diminish me that instead catalyzed my liberation. As I prepare for bed, I realize the fundamental transformation isn't in my circumstances, but in my perception. For 8 years, I measured my worth partially through their approval. Now I recognize that validation was never available, and more importantly, never necessary. Tomorrow, the final papers will be filed. The legal severance of a relationship that had actually ended the moment truth was spoken in that pristine living room. Not with dramatic confrontation, but with simple clarity. I deserved better. And I had the power to create it for myself all along. Spring sunlight streams through windows once covered by heavy drapes James preferred. 1 year after Patricia's casual dismissal, my home has transformed entirely. Walls and colors that energize me. Furniture arranged for comfort rather than impression. Art I selected for beauty rather than status. Every element reflecting the woman I actually am, not the daughter-in-law I pretended to be. The garden blooms with wildflowers where Patricia once insisted on formal landscaping. The kitchen features cooking tools I actually use, not the showcase appliances that impressed weekend visitors, but gathered dust. My phone buzzes with a text from Claire. Happy Liberation Anniversary. Dinner tonight to celebrate. I smile, typing back confirmation. The date passed unmarked in official calendars, but my closest friends remember. 1 year since the implosion that ultimately freed me. The doorbell rings, announcing the delivery I've been expecting. A painting I commissioned for the living room, an abstract landscape capturing the view from my mountain cabin, which has become my sanctuary during seasonal escapes. As I hang it in the place of honor, my phone rings with an unfamiliar number. I answer cautiously. Rebecca? A voice I recognize instantly. Patricia. Yes. I maintain neutral composure, waiting. She seems uncharacteristically hesitant. Robert and I are selling the house. Downsizing now that everything's changed. The unspoken reality hangs between us. The family finances never recovered from repaying their obligations. James's business struggles required them to provide support rather than receive it. The social standing they prioritized above all else diminished after the divorce revelations. I see, I respond, not unkindly but without offering the emotional support she might be seeking. We found some items of yours in storage. Family photographs, some mementos. I thought you might want them. I consider how to respond. These items represent a life deliberately behind me, yet they remain part of my history. You can have them delivered if that's easier, I offer. Actually, Patricia says, I thought perhaps I could bring them myself. The request surprises me. The implicit acknowledgement that access to my home, my life, is now something she must request rather than assume. I'll be home Saturday morning, I tell her, setting a clear time frame rather than open-ended availability. After we disconnect, I return to arranging my living space, reflecting on how thoroughly life has transformed. My career has flourished, a promotion to marketing director at a larger firm, with compensation that more than compensates for losing James's inconsistent contributions. My social circle has evolved, deeper connections with friends who value me for myself, not my marital associations. Saturday arrives bright and clear. Patricia's car pulls into my driveway precisely at the arranged time. Through the window, I watch her approach my door, carrying a modest box rather than the imperious attitude she once brought into my space. I open the door before she knocks, standing firmly in the threshold. Rebecca, she says, her eyes taking in my appearance, my home visible behind me, the evident changes. You look well. Thank you, I reply simply. You can bring that in if you'd like. She follows me inside, her steps tentative in a space once familiar, but now transformed beyond recognition. Her gaze moves over the changes, the colors, the arrangements, the visible evidence of my reclaimed identity. You've made a lot of changes, she observes. I've made the home mine. She sets the box on the coffee table, her hands lingering on its edges. I found your wedding album. I thought, despite everything, you might want it. I look at the box, understanding it contains artifacts of a life I've left behind yet cannot erase. Thank you for bringing these. Patricia straightens, smoothing her skirt in a nervous gesture I've never seen from her before. Elizabeth mentioned you've been promoted. Congratulations. Yes, last month. An awkward silence stretches between us, two women connected by history, but no longer by pretense, standing in a space that represents the fullest expression of my independence from her influence. I should go, she says finally. At the door, she pauses. Your home is lovely, Rebecca. It suits you. The acknowledgement, the first genuine recognition she's ever offered of me as an individual rather than an extension of her son, comes too late to matter in the way it once would have. Thank you, Patricia. As her car disappears down the street, I return to the living room, to the box of memories I'll examine later with the emotional distance time has provided. For now, I have dinner preparations for friends who are coming to celebrate not what I lost, but what I found, my authentic self, my reclaimed space, my life built on my terms. The woman who sat across from them in their pristine living room and heard, "We never liked you anyway," no longer exists. In her place stands someone far stronger, someone who finally understands her own worth isn't measured by their approval. That, ultimately, is the greatest reclamation of all.